Hi, in this video I'm going to go through the standard workflow for restoring an old picture, a snapshot, something from a family album within about 5 minutes. So I've loaded up a picture already into Photoshop Elements. I will be using the mouse, the scroll wheel on the mouse. Sometimes I'll hold down the space bar and use the mouse button to move the picture around when it's zoomed in. And you can see the sort of thing that we're trying to remove here. These very small scratches, there are lots of dots of dust. If we go over here, you can see there are some slightly larger blotches as well. Not too visible, we might be prepared to live with them, but within 5 minutes we can deal with most of these things. So the workflow. First thing that I suggest doing is thinking about global things you might do to the picture, like alter its contrast or try to bring things out in the shadows. Now we do that from the Enhance menu on Photoshop. There are a number of automatic things. I rarely use those. I might think about adjusting the shadows, bringing those up a little bit. I could click on this, but I'm not sure that I want that for this picture. I might think about darkening the highlights. That's something that we do quite often. It gives a bit more sculpting. In an old picture, quite often it's both over and unexposed. It's because the dynamic range of the film hasn't been maintained as there's been fading over the years. With this one, I think I will just lighten the shadows a little bit and darken the highlights. There are things we might do on colour as well, which I'll show you at a later time. So having done Enhance, the next thing we do, we're still going to work globally on the picture, but we go over to the layer menu and we're going to create a duplicate layer for the next step of things that we do. So you see over on the side here, I've now got another layer, and the next few things that I work on will be on this top copy. Again, moving across the top menus, we can come to filter, and the first thing to try is to use an automated filter to remove some of these little scratches that I've pointed out. Let's just zoom in on that one again and see how it works. There are a number of choices here. If you click filter, go down to noise, here are some different ways of either adding noise, which we don't want to do, or removing it. Dust and scratches is probably the one that I use the most. Let's just click on that. You can see straight away that it seems to have worked. The radius tells you over what region you are going to try and fill in gaps caused by dust and scratches. Some people advise using that up to maybe 3 or 4, and in fact this slider goes way over here, which really makes the whole picture unusable. In fact, I would say the picture is unusable practically everywhere except 1. So I'd keep that on 1. This threshold determines how big a difference has to be before it's taken out by the noise filter. Now what that means is that if you go right down to 0, it really smooths out all the background grain. We don't want that typically. If you go all the way the other way, then it doesn't pick up anything, as you see. We need to get it low enough so that it gets rid of these scratches. Typically, going right down to 25 or so, or even a bit further, is fine. Sometimes when you have a lot of noise, you want to go right down, but let's stick at this for now. Okay, so that's the thing that we do globally. So far, we've used 3 menus, one to think about the things like contrast and color, one to duplicate the top layer, and then one filter to do a global automated removal of noise. Now we're going to use local tools, and they are down this side here, and there are 3 that we're going to use: the spot healing brush, the clone stamp, and erase. So our automated filter has just removed a lot of the dust and scratches, but you can see it doesn't quite do it completely. And this is why we need the spot healing brush. We select this and we can just dab this in places where we want to just improve things a little bit more. Now most of those are where there will be remaining dots of noise. So if I move back over here where I was before, well, there are 1 or 2 faint ones, nothing really to worry about here. There's that bigger one that I talked about originally. Let's get that one. There we go. When you scan, quite often the noise shows up in the darker areas. So if we go down here, for example, here's some examples where there's both dots of noise, and maybe things have been caused by creasing or something like that, where there's a streak. So let's kind of go down there and deal with that. The spot healing brush does a reasonable job on these, but the place where the clone stamp tool comes in is where there's an extended crease or an extended impairment of some other kind. And very often the easiest way to get rid of that is to select the clone stamp tool, find a place near where here's a streak we want to get rid of, find a place near and clone from there. So I'm going to press the Alt key on the keyboard, which we use to select a place, and click, and then paint over using that. I'll maybe do that just over here as well to get rid of some of that extended problem there. Now you will find actually that you can use the clone stamp tool on a lot of other dots as well. You know, I could use the healing brush on these, but clone stamp works perfectly well. Some of the things I'm taking out might not actually be noise. They might really be there in the background. There is also a fading effect here, or a color discoloration, which I'll cover in a different video. So we would explore this picture, looking for little dots of noise, looking for little streaks, taking them out perhaps with the clone stamp tool or with the healing brush, like so, and eventually we will be content that we've picked up all the main places. One thing that we will want to concentrate on is where the eye goes to in the picture, which in this case is this little guy here. It doesn't look as though there's any leftover bits of noise on his face. It seems now that we have picked up all the most obvious places. These might be things to get rid of just here, and we can do that just by clicking with the healing brush as a little dot perhaps. So this is something done visually. You can't guarantee to pick up all the noise, but you can probably pick up a great deal. So I said we're going to use 3 local tools. There's the healing brush, the clone tool. Use that more as you get more noise. And then the third one is the eraser. Now what we want to use that for is to get back to the very original picture before we did the automated filtering in places of detail, places where we want to bring back detail. Let me just show you what I mean, because over on the layers menu here, we can switch on and off the new layer that we've been working on. So let's sort of go deep in so that we can see this effect. So if I turn off the background copy layer, you see there's a little piece of noise here, which our filter got rid of, very good. But also the highlights in the eyes have been attenuated. They've been made smaller, and also the contrast has been reduced. We'd like to bring that back. So here's where the eraser comes in. We apply it to that top layer and bring back those areas of sharpness. Now you may find that around the face, around sharp areas in the face, that you want to do that. In this picture there really hasn't been much loss. I think here we've lost a little bit around the teeth. There's a nice little highlight just there that we'd like to have. As well, when there's a lot of detail, such as here in a picture, it could be that our filter removed some of it. It doesn't seem to have done badly this time, but I quite often erase places like this where you might be able to bring back some of the detail a little bit more. Again, this is by eye. Again, you might not catch everything. It could be that you want to concentrate on highlights like this, just bringing those back. As you do this check, you will discover things that you want to pick up with noise removal. We might go back to the healing brush tool and just get rid of that, for example, and this. So this is a sort of second look through the whole picture to bring back those areas that are missing. So we've gone down those 3 tools down the side menu. The only thing that remains is to finish off. To finish, we want to collapse the layers. Remember, we've got these 2 layers here. If we're going to save as a JPEG, not as a Photoshop file, we want to get it back into a single picture. So we go back to the layer menu and flatten image. So that flattens it. It could be we want to do 1 or 2 other things, want to enhance back to the global thinking again, just to finish off. But otherwise, that's just about how we want to leave the picture.